Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that spotlights the stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So sit back, relax, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Well, my Someone You Should Know guest describes their band as an improvisational psychedelic jam band that keeps it fresh in performance with dynamic, far-out, and improvised jams with an eclectic mix of originals heavily influenced by the music of Phish and the Grateful Dead with a hint of jazz fusion. So ultimately, you never know what you're going to get. The band is the Lost Pyramids. They have a debut album out called Monsters Under My Bed. From the band, will you please welcome Andrew Stump and Chuck Wilson. Drew, Chuck, welcome aboard.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hey, guys.
All right. Now, Drew, you were actually part of a podcast that actually aired in November. I had on American Dream, and that, of course, is a Doors tribute band, and you play keys on that particular band. And I was mentioning to Grant Niebergall, I said, you must have the difficult job of the band, because if you remember back to the Doors, they didn't have a bassist. They didn't have a bass player. Ray Manzarek, the role that you're playing, actually has to do double. They have to play the bass line on the keys. So, that's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah. So yes, with the American Prayer, we do the authentic. We have the vintage gear that I use. I would say most of our set lists, it's kind of based on what my capabilities are for that.
Your comfort level, then, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, though. I think once you get used to playing like that, it almost becomes second nature, where the left hand carries the bass, right hand kind of does some freak out organ. The way I think of it is like, oh, my left hand has to be on autopilot.
Very true, very true. Chuck, can you give me the rundown of the Lost Pyramids and kind of the origins of the band, the who, what, where, when, why, and how you guys formed, when it was, and how y'all came to be together?
Sure, yeah. Well, the group's kind of been like a changing lineup over the years.
Okay.
I put it together in 2019, and it was really just a group of my buddies that, we wanted to play music. We were like doing the open mics and stuff like that. And it really just became like, we should like get some gigs and play shows.
Mm-hmm.
And
right
from there, yeah, it just kind of went, and we were doing that for a while. Then once the pandemic hit, we were kind of stuck at home, and our lineup kind of shifted around. But I think that it ultimately worked out good for us, because we kind of, I in that time met Drew, and then met Nate, who is our drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, from there we then had some more lineup changes and found Larry, who's our bass player. And yeah, it's really just been like always wanting to just go out and play, and kind of keeping the music like loose in that improv kind of style where anything can happen. And that's just what I find the most fun.
Yeah, anything can happen, and probably will, right?
Right.
The first song we're going to feature is actually the title from the album called Monsters Under My Bed. What's the backstory on it, guys?
I wrote this song, I think 2021 maybe, or 2020, I'm not quite sure, but it really just, the main riff popped into my head, and I don't know, it's always been for me like a nice kind of metaphor for what I think that everyone's got a little bit of like skeletons in their closet, right. Monsters under thing. So yeah, once I had the riff, the rest kind of just came. I didn't try too hard on that one. So
awesome. It's a great track, folks. We're going to feature that right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast. It's called Monsters Under the Bed. It is the title cut from the Lost Pyramids. And from that band, we've got Drew Stump and Chuck Wilson. Here's the song right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
they all want me dead. Mommy said, don't you worry, little boy, we're gonna give you a nightlight. And Daddy said, let's let them scare. He's leaving lights out. But Mommy, Daddy, don't you hear me scream. I believe there's monsters under my bed, and I think they want me dead. I believe there's monsters under my bed, and I think they want me dead. And they're coming for my head.
My Bed, new music from Lost Pyramids. It's the title cut of their debut album. We have Drew Stump and Chuck Wilson from the band on the show today. With the release of the album, that's really a big deal. Is that your high watermark to date, or is it playing a specific venue or another accomplishment? What would you say is your high watermark?
Oh, there's been a couple this year. I think releasing the album was first and foremost, I think that was the big one. And it's probably the reason that we got into some of our favorite venues this year, because now we really have something to show who we are. This is what we do. We're serious about this. So I would say that's for me this year. I think releasing the album was a big high for us.
Very good. What's some of the venues you guys like to play?
Well, down in Peoria, Illinois, there's a place called Kenny's West Side, and that was probably my favorite place to play this year. Just a really good local music scene and of music lovers, and kind of in a spot you wouldn't necessarily suspect in Peoria, but they came out for that show. We recently played at the Acorn Theater up in Three Oaks, Michigan.
Great venue. Very good venue. I love that place.
Right, yeah, that one kind of definitely knocked my expectations out of the park. I had a great time and really a great place, great crew there too. So those are the two for me, I think, this year off the top of my head. Yeah,
I'd have to give that too. We also did the Hobart Theater back in May.
Oh, the Art Theater, yeah. The Art Theater, yeah.
Yeah, and, it's funny, we mentioned American Prayer earlier. I was, on double duty that night because Lost Pyramids, we opened for...
You didn't get a break at all then.
Yeah, no breaks for the keyboard player.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. Well, when the writing process comes to be, because you guys are a jam band, does it just actually come out of the ether, out of the mix of what you guys are playing, or is an idea actually brought in and developed from that point?
It's more so the latter. I usually have some sort of idea. Because some of the guys have joined kind of in the midst of the band, there's been written charts out for some stuff, but there's a wide variety. Usually the songs are brought and the structure's in place, but there's usually an improv section that is yet to be determined, kind of.
That's the kind of thing that will happen during rehearsal is let's put the jam section, let's do it right here. We'll improvise in practice. If we don't like what we hear, we'll try something else. If we like what we hear, we keep the idea.
All right. So, very good. We're going to feature another song from the album you guys have been talking about. Monsters Under My Bed is the name of the album. We're going to feature a track called Win Your Heart. Can you give me the backstory on this one?
Yeah, this song actually is kind of interesting because during the pandemic, the guys that were in the group at the time, we were doing we kind of challenged ourselves to make a 1-minute song every week. And we carried that on for a little bit over a year, but so we were calling them Jam of the Weeks.
Uh-huh.
So this really started as just a 1-minute tune that we kind of made a little video with. And so then I eventually took that and wrote lyrics to it and kind of expanded upon it and brought it to the band, and it is what it is now. So it's actually, I think that it kind of had a nice little trajectory.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. I like where that one's going. Win Your Heart is the name of the song. We're going to feature that now on the Someone You Should Know podcast from today's guest, Lost Pyramids. Here it is.
Well, no one ever told me, baby, to get this far. And I think I knew good and well that it was gonna be so hard. Well, I knew good and well, my baby, that it was gonna be so hard just to win your heart. Where do we go, baby? Where do we go? Oh, now.
Win Your Heart from the album Monsters, Under My Bed. The Lost Pyramids are joining me today on the Someone You Should Know podcast, and joining me from the band, Drew Stump and Chuck Wilson. Now, guys, you've been together since, 2019 or so. You've had your share of gigs. You were mentioning a couple that you went to this year. A feature that we always love to include on the Someone You Should Know podcast is called Tales from the Road. Now, this is those infamous road stories of where things didn't go as planned. You know, you kind of chuckle about it now, but back at the time you were going, how am I going to get through this particular thing? Can you give me the Lost Pyramids Tales from the Road?
Yeah, this is a good one, too. Drew actually wasn't at this gig. He missed out on a memorable gig. But so we were playing at a little pub in Harwood Heights. And, yeah, we didn't really know what to expect. We rolled up to this place, and Nate, our drummer, starts unloading his drums onto this kind of like makeshift stage that they have. And he steps up onto the stage, and he just steps right through it.
Oh, dear God.
So the stage, right from the beginning of the night, we were just like, okay, like, here we go.
Well, they use 1/4-inch plywood?
Yeah, right from it literally was made of plywood. So what they ended up doing, they took like an electric nail gun and like nailed some more wood over the
Oh,
stage.
dear God.
And yeah, we played the whole gig. It actually went well. I think they enjoyed us musically. And yeah, so like that was not too bad. But when the gig finished, the owner of the place kind of had his dog running around this parking lot that we were kind of playing in. And Nate's backing his car up so he can unload his drums. And the guy's like, hey, like, don't hit my dog or I'm going to have to shoot you, like, as a joke. We're like, oh, okay, like, haha, like, we won't do that. And then he was like, no, seriously, like, I will shoot you. And he, like, pulled out this gun. And we were like, holy shit, like, okay, don't hit the dog.
Wow.
But, you know, like, we actually got paid in full that night and there were no problems. So it's because of that, it is a good story.
Wow. That's an exceptional one, guys. Thank you so very much for sharing that. I like that one. What are your plans for 2023? What are the big plans for 2023?
Well, we've been hitting the studio at the end of 2022, so we have a couple more studio dates. We're going to be releasing a new album with a full-length album, so that'll be called Traffic in Space.
Oh, okay.
So we're excited to be sharing that one. Hopefully, we're working on lining up gigs for the summer, but yeah, so keep up to date with us because we'll be announcing some more stuff down the road. The album release is the big one, and keep up to date with us because we'll have some more announcements.
And we'll definitely keep up to date with them because I'm going to ask you next for the links, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to include those in the show notes. So if you happen to be, at your desk, or you happen to be maybe out in the car or something like that hearing this podcast and going, oh gosh, I need that information, how can I find it? It's in the show notes. What's a good link for your band, guys?
Go to, we have a website, so lostpyramidsband.com. From there, you'll be able to find everything that you could want. Other than that, you can find us on Facebook. Just Lost Pyramids, and Instagram. Our handle is at Lost Pyramids Band. And we also have some music that's not on any of the streaming services on Bandcamp, and you can also buy some merch on Bandcamp.
All right,
under Lost.
We'll include all those links, gang, because especially Bandcamp, that's one. It always seems to be getting forgotten lately. It seems like everyone's moved on to whatever and on the streaming platforms and such. But yeah, we'll include all those links. Any final thoughts, guys?
My final thoughts are just, I'm excited for what 2023 is going to bring to us, especially with this album release that's coming. I'm excited to keep playing, excited to be a part of this project, and, we look forward to the future.
All right, very good, very good. Final track we're going to feature is called Phases of the Moon. I like that one. What's the thought on this one?
This one actually also started as a jam of the week.
Okay. I like that.
So, it was just a little 1-minute tune, and it got expanded upon, and here it is.
All right, yeah, here it is. Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for being my guest today on the Someone You Should Know podcast. Once again, we had Drew Stump and Chuck Wilson from the band Lost Pyramids as my guest today. Guys, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.